The next thing we'll cover is specialized research databases. The two important things to know about this is first to know that these exist. Don't just assume that Lexis or Westlaw will have what you need. Instead, when you're entering a new area of law you haven't worked with before, or once you get familiar with an area of law and you just want to go back and revisit periodically, is there a different resource that I should be using? Lexis and Westlaw won't always have everything that you need, and just know to go and look for other sources and do a sanity check. Am I looking in the right place? The next thing is to get familiar with some of the tools that look across different databases. We'll cover 3 tools today. The St. Mary's eJournal Locator lets you go from a citation to a journal to then see all the different places you can find that journal and what years of journal it will have. The next is worldcat.org. That is a tool that searches across all library catalogs in the world and across online books that are open access and government reports. The next is the St. Mary's Law Libraries catalog. So these are the St. Mary's Law's specialized research databases. You can see under the quick links there a listing of them. You can also scroll down and see descriptions of them. The descriptions are just written by whoever posted that link when it went up. They're not authoritative, but at the same time they'll give you the important information. So Hein Online has law journals dating back to the 1800s versus Lexis and Westlaw, which have law journals going back to the 1980s, but not much before then. And for each description you can you pull out some important points. It's only maybe 3-4 pages if you print this out, so maybe worth it to print it and just give it a once over. And first we'll cover a little bit about access. So access to the St. Mary's Law School databases and electronic resources for most of them is that students and faculty will have access to these in the building. That's automatic, and then from off campus you'll have a login that will work to get you into those. Your login should work for a few months after you graduate, basically until you take the bar exam, because you still get access to some library privileges until then. And then for the public, the general public, including alumni who've been graduated and taken the bar exam, they can come into the building and physically use these. That becomes really important because if you're doing solo practice and you don't have the money for a Lexis or Westlaw account, you just need basic material, well, you can come into the library and use LexisNexis Academic to shepherdize resources. It has a miserable search interface, but it has all the same material as LexisNexis Legal, a little bit more news, and it lets you shepherdize and follow the links between case citations. You also may find yourself at some point in the future wanting an older law review or journal. You can come into the building, you can read it in paper, or you can also go into Hein Online and just print off those pages or email them to yourself. The next thing is, if you're working for an employer is very unlikely to provide you all of these databases. The law library at St. Mary's is serving an academic legal population. A lot of what we focus on is older academic material. A private employer isn't going to focus on those. However, they'll provide you other things that we don't. An example of a database you would really commonly get access to is Accurate. This lets you look up things about people. So you could put in a social security number and then get a current address for a person and pay a fee for that. That's really important if you want to get service process on that person, which you do if you're out practicing, but in a law school doesn't really matter, and we don't want you to go around looking up personal information about people. There's just no need for it yet. Another example of a database you'll really commonly have for any employer is a form bank. So they'll keep copies of all their old court filings, and then you can just go in, cut and paste, change some of the names and some of the wording, but you don't have to go to a form book and completely retype the form. Or if there's a research question that comes up pretty commonly, they'll have older advice that they've given to clients before, and so you'll be able to go and access the firm's research for the areas of law they work in.